You should be good.
Smithfield Town Council, February 9th, 2022. Madam Clerk, will you please read the prayer and pledge?
All those who are serving in positions of authority and responsibility.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Here. Here. Open forum pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-6. Is there anybody in the audience that's here live that would like to be heard during open forum at this time?
Yes.
No, hold on a minute. I said here in the audience. One second.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to give the audience first grab. Anybody in the audience at this time? Okay. Who was that said yes?
Mr. Clifford,
Okay. Was there anybody else? Was it just the one?
just the one, Mr. President.
All right, Mr. Clifford, go ahead. You're on.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to just ask that when you discuss the police station, you also mention what the bond, whether you've received the written communication from bond counsel as to regards to the legitimacy of putting the question on the ballot in the way that I described. And I'll wait to hear that during that. But I'd like to speak to, I watched the other night the presentation by the and the discussion of the Halliwell committee. And I just have one observation that has been bothering me for a while now, and I think it's getting to the point where it should be addressed. If I'm seeing the material and reading the material correctly on the town website, it shows that a survey was done and only 441 people responded to that survey. There's 10,000 voters in this town. 441 represents about 4% of the population. And the registered voters, I'm sorry. And in addition to that, there's statements that say, that suggest that seniors are solidly behind the need for a senior center. And they made it loud and clear because 51% of all the respondents, which is like 180 people, would like to see a senior center. Well, you know, I did a survey on my Facebook page a couple of weeks ago, and it was kind of a joke survey because if you do a professional survey, there's more than a handful of questions. And the questions look to the demographics of who took the survey, what the percentages that took the survey, what the assortment of questions was. So you get a true reflection of the community. 29, now we're off on a direction that we're convinced that the entire town or a vast majority of the town is in favor of some type of complex that was described the other night based on a survey of 441 out of 10,000 voters and taxpayers. So I think we missed a step in the process somewhere. And I heard part of the discussion about the charge of the Halliwell committee and it being modified or whatever. But before we spend another nickel on a consultant to come up with a design for something that we truly don't know whether we have the backing, whether you have the backing of a majority of the people in this town or a majority of the seniors, you should have, you know, add to their charge and give them this to take care of is to, you know, you issue an RFP or an RFQ for a professional person who is familiar with the validity of questionnaires and surveys and the means to get like 80% of the registered voters in town to complete it. So that's just one point, but that's been nagging at me for quite a while. I also heard the figure 400,000, you know, was available for the demolition. I'm questioning that number because I remember about a year and a half ago, when Mr. Ozowski was the administrator, there was a dispute with the town, with the school committee as to who was going to cough up any of that money. because I believe they expended most of the bond money for the new addition and the improvements at the high school. And that 400K was coming out of the school bond, not the municipal bond. So I'd like to hear from the finance director as to what money there is and where it came from. You know, because I don't remember the outcome of that dispute. I truly don't have a recall of it, but I just remember, you know, thinking these numbers, I'm not sure where they're getting these numbers from. But I think the other point that I'd like to raise is we have a lot of needs in this town, and we have a tendency to address one need at a time. And there's no business that's ever survived for more than 50 years or 10 years that looked at projects in a 1-year time frame. And if you look at some of the past budget committee reports, you'll see in there that it's been recommended several times that the town actually start planning, like do a 5-year capital plan and stick to it. Determine what your buildings are and decide what you're going to build next and what the priorities should be. I heard it mentioned the other night that Halliwell is a risk and a priority, you know, because it's a risk that somebody's going to injure themselves. So are all of the roads in this town that the 2012 study identified as 9 or 8 or 7, which is like, don't even drive on them, to extremely poor. I mean, those are all now unquestionably, they've got to be ranked a 9, 10 years later, and they still haven't been fixed. So I think you can't just pick one project, look at that, and then decide we're going to throw some money at it. I think you need to sit down, and that's not a simple task, and it's not 1 or 2 meetings. It's a long-term project to come up with a concise plan of what needs to be done in the town and where. The closest person I heard speak to that the other night was Mr. Prendergast, when he kept saying repeatedly, where's the money? Where's the money? We never look at the money or the forecast of the revenue or the amount of debt. And the last thing I want to see this town do personally is to make the mistake that was made when the middle school was built. We went out, we took out a $30 million bond, and for the next 25 years, we didn't have money to operate anything because we were paying $4 million a year in bond payments. If we ever get to the point where we're debt free, and hopefully that would be soon, if we can restrain ourselves from taking out more money, this town needs to have a good 5 to 10 year period of no debt on the books and just spend $4 million on capital and things like that and operating budgets to get every number up to what it should be. We went with a lot of things during that period of time. There wasn't a highway truck that was left that was worth even scrap metal cost on by the time we finally started replacing it. And it's just been ludicrous the amount of debt we've carried. And we built a middle school for $30 million with the industrial arts classrooms, home economics classrooms, a foreign language program. And within 5 years, we had, well, I would say 5 years, within a handful of years, we had none of those programs because we couldn't afford to operate the building. It's been a mistake that we repeat constantly. So before we run out and indebt ourselves once again, I think you need to do some serious projections on a lot of numbers and not just run off on a tangent. By the time you get that consultant's report on this project and we have the money to do it, it's very likely the consultant's report will be outdated and will have to be done over again. So that's the commentary that I have to offer tonight on that. And I just want to make one last comment. I have been doing a survey of cities and towns regarding the practice of the town council responding to questions and being free to ask questions and answer questions of the residents under public discussion or whatever you want to call it on the various agendas. I've gotten 25 responses so far. 23% in one way or another allow board members are free to ask and answer questions asked and interact with residents on issues raised during public comment. Of those 25, 3 qualified it because they either don't have the item as an agenda item, but there is a means for a resident to put an item on the agenda and get far more than 3 minutes. And the other 2 do have it on the agenda, but after somebody speaks, if it's an item that they're interested in having a lengthy discussion on, they add it to that evening's agenda or the subsequent meeting's agenda for discussion only, not action, which is totally legal. So I wish we would begin the practice that conforms with what democracy actually represents in the other parts of the state, and how much interaction is welcome from other communities in this state. So that's it for this evening, and I truly hope you heard some of the comments that I made tonight, because I think we're heading in a very, very bad direction.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you very much. And your point with $400,000, I will check with the finance director, and then we'll get back to you on that point.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard in open forum at this time? CJ, is there anybody else that raised their hand?
No, Mr. President.
Anybody in the audience? Okay, we're gonna move on then. We're gonna make a minor adjustment to the schedule here. We're gonna move to new business A. Discussion by council vote on the action on presentation by Austin Silva for his Eagle Scout rehabilitation project outside of Scholars Hall. Austin, why don't you get the floor?
So I start sharing your screen and oh, yeah, I take that.
He's not there.
You good? Yes, I just gotta make sure you shut. Nice and clear.
Okay, before I start my project, I'd just like to thank the town council for having me here. Once again, I'm Austin Silvia, and this is my Eagle Scout presentation. My Eagle Scout project, my idea for my Eagle Scout project is to renovate the outside of Scouters Hall. Here are some pictures of what needs to be fixed. So as you can see here, this side door could use some fresh paint. The sign is pretty torn down. Here's a close-up picture if you look here. Some vinyl siding that could be fixed, a broken flag cap, and a dead nest. Scouters Hall importance. There are a few reasons as to why Scouters Hall is important. It's the place where scout meetings and events are held. It's a place where senior citizens are allowed to come and go through events such as chair aerobics and dance lessons, and is also where the municipal court is located. Now, why did I choose this idea? The reason I chose this as my project was because Scouters Hall has been around for many years, and not much has really been done to it. With this in mind, I decided to clean up the outside of it for my Eagle Scout project. Some of the benefits of this project are a refurbished look of Scouters Hall, it will be better presenting and embodies the clean part of the Scout law. Timeframe: obtain necessary materials from January to February, and talk to Mr. Beauregard about that, and going to businesses to hold a bake sale. For scheduled project date, which I will announce to the troop, I'm hoping to have it between March and April, and the project should take 2 days, 4 to 5 hours per day, and if necessary, a third day. I'm hoping to finish the project by May 1st, the latest, and the overall time frame of the project of 4 months. Materials needed / total cost. I split this up into different tasks. For task 1, repair side of the front door or replace it. 12-foot piece of composite board, which is $60. Paint, $50. Finish nails, $25. A nail gun, which will be provided. Paintbrushes, $20. Painter's tape, $10, which leaves a total of $165. Clean / wash siding, a new garden hose, $50. Liquid soap, $25. Sponges, $50, and a total of $75. For the flagpole, a new flag cap, $10. Paint, $25. An A-frame ladder, which will also be provided, and paint brushes, $20. Total, $55. Paint side door, paint, $25. Paint brushes, $20. Painter's tape, $10. Total of $55. Repair vinyl siding, 5 lamps, 4-inch doubles, $100. 1 1/4-inch roofing nails, $21, leaving a total of $121. Outdoor lights and / back door, 2 lights, $100, a total of $100. General landscaping in the front, 160 feet cubed mulch, $400, total of $400. Replace garage door hardware, lock-in handle, $50. Garage door weather strip, $20, leaving a total of $70. And for food and drinks, water, $20, pizza, $80, leaving a total of $100. And this brings a grand total of $1,141. House supplies and/or money will be acquired. Paid for by the town of North Smithfield, possibly. And if money is needed to be raised, I will hold a bake sale at a local store such as Brigido's and Coffee and Cream. Talk to businesses such as Leeway and Lowe's for supplies or for supply donations / discounts if needed. Tools and safety. The tools that will be used by adults will be the pressure washer, nail gun, and the drill. And then the tools used by scouts will be paintbrushes, sponges, garden hose, and hammer. And first aid equipment will be present while project is being worked on. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Austin, I can tell you, yes, and you're kind of entering my realm a little bit, and so I might be able to help you with some of a lot of those donations. So have your father get to meet the fact that we're working that together. Okay.
Mr. President, Mr. Pendergast has something which is that.
Okay.
And when we met at Scouters, we went over this project. I had told Austin I didn't want to be able to take away from his enthusiasm in putting this together. But I assured him and his father that I have money in my budget to offset any things that he can't raise or any donations that he can't. I want him to move forward with this great project. Long overdue. It helps my department out tremendously, but I told him that at the end, if he's short anything, that my budget would take care of that for him.
Perfect, right? Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Yeah, what were you saying?
It's very well organized. I have a house maybe. We're gonna go for 100 years in my house. What can I tell you?
Could we get you to change your mind and do bushy school instead of?
It's a great idea, and it's so purposeful. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It shows the pride you have, for not only for Scotland, but for our town, which will spread trust me like wildfire.
Thank you. And you know how to reach me, your father knows how to reach me, so if you need any help, but you got a good guy on your side, Mr. Pendergast can help you out, whatever you need.
Thank you.
Great project.
There is one thing though, I have a thing right here. And I was wondering if you could sign it. It's for my Eagle Scout packet that I have to fill out. And it's about the. Yes, purple. You want to sign?
Authorize you to sign.
Let him make a decision.
Make a motion that we authorize the council president to sign the application and approval for Austin Sylvia's Eagle Scout project.
Second it?
Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on now. You want to just take a second, take your time? Discussion by council vote on other action on update of municipal building review task force. Mr. Nordstrom? And then we'll also, while we're on this, I think bring up a new business app, please. Maybe the business.
Whole business.
Whole business.
See.
Okay, I'll handle that if you want to, that's fine.
Take care of all of it.
All right. So, Mr. Nordstrom?
Okay, in your packet, you should have a note from the task force dated January 31st. Asking that invoice from 44605 from Tech Home in the amount of $2,000. That's the last payment under the contract. Workshop.
Any questions, Mr. Nordstrom? The motion to approve payment to Tecton?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the payment to Tecton invoice number 44605 dated December 17, 2021, in the amount of $2,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, Ms. Madden, after we move up, discussion by council of action on police station renovation or improvement of existing police station and or construction of police station, new police station. Madden, you want to take from there?
So after the last meeting that we had, the workshop that we had with Tecton, I think that they really gave a nice presentation. They really detailed with the chief what they were putting in that building and what was needed. I think that as a group now, we need to make a decision on whether we're going to move forward or do nothing with the thing. I mean, everyone kind of knows where I stand on this thing. So just probably get discussion going. I would make a motion at this time that based on the recommendations of Tecton Architects in their report dated September of 2021 in the Municipal Building Review Task Force, that the town pursue the construction of a new police station at the present location of 575 Smithfield Road. Also, that the town begin the process of formally preparing for a ballot question to be held in conjunction with the election to be held on November 8th of 2022. And lastly, that Tecton Architects contract be amended to include working with the task force to refine a final plan for town council approval.
So, well, okay, I'll second the discussion on that. So you're not looking for a number at this time?
Not at this time. Stop it there. We'll work with them to get a design that council will approve. And then we'll get a number, on it. Then we can forward that number to the general assembly. I think based on all the information I've seen, the latest report, from the trust, I think we're doing, actually, we need to stop moving on this so we can get general assembly approval for a bond question in the election. We can get them a number before we submit that. And get a footprint that we can all agree on. We've had a lot of discussion where we've reduced a few things, we've changed a few things, eliminated some things. And so based on that, get a whole new footprint from them. But I think we need to re-engage them because they wanted their contract. And even the workshop that we'll be coming through, they've been looking at it, okay, let's keep this moving forward as a goodwill gesture, so to speak. To go forward now, have them continue to work with us to get to that point, we're gonna have to re-engage them.
So if I, just so we're clear, so everybody understands, so voting in favor of your motion would not, nobody's committing to a number at this time, we're just committing to the process. We're saying, yes, we agree, we need a new police station, and the number to be determined at a later date.
Soon, not like 5 months from now, either.
Right, but I just want to maybe add to that motion. I had a conversation today with the planner, and I, through Mrs. Linsky, he okayed my having a conversation with them, and we just.
Very early this morning.
Right, and I did, so when we discussed, what I discussed with the planner was, the possibility of finding money out there, and he agreed that he could probably, he's very, very good at finding money, and he said he'd never been turned down for a grant yet that he put in for. I would like to also direct the planner to help find money. There's a lot of money out there right now, and I would like to direct the planner to find money to try to defray the cost of this project.
So it won't defray the cost, it will just, it will help the town and the taxpayers. And that
Correct. It will defray our costs.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be talking to our congressional leaders right now too with the $1 trillion of
That's right.
infrastructure money that they put out there that we would hurt to ask them, hey, what's available? You know, even if it, for them, it might look like crumbs, to us it would be a windfall.
Exactly right.
What kind of time frame do we have to get this, to meet all the deadlines? What kind of time frame do we have to get the dollar
We
amount?
probably need to get something to the General Assembly in April, sometime in April, with a number, so that they can get enabling legislation, because they take time to get things through there, and they're done in June, so we're all asking done. The enabling legislation that needs to be done by June. The ballot question, actually, we have until sometime in August to get the actual wording on the ballot, working with bond council to get the actual wording. What it would be, but we need to get that enabling legislation. That's kind of what's driving some of this right now. In order to have it on the election, instead of having a special election, we would do a general election to try to save some money on top of that too. We would need to get something from the General Assembly. That's kind of what's pushing this right now a little bit. And on top of it is the other information that we have from the trust.
I just don't want to get back into having people out there and have to throw the $18 million on there. And I just, that's in the back of my head that we're at such a tight turnaround time that we're gonna be forced to put that $18 million out there. That's why I don't feel comfortable. So we have this,
It may not be. You know.
Right.
I don't
We
have-
want
I
to
don't-
turn
I
this
don't-
around so quickly, and it's a big project, and we're just rushing into it, and we met with Tecton again, and we still don't know how much more we can come down with different changes, and I don't want to go out there and have people vote on it, and then we turn around and say, oh yeah, it's still gonna be $18 million. And until I can see that Tecton is coming down with some figures, and they haven't really given us, okay, maybe $1 million, but that's still not really that much that they're coming down in. And I don't want to be back into a corner saying, okay, we're gonna save money by going in the general election rather than have a special election because we gotta rush into this. And then be backed into the corner and say, okay, the best we can do is 17.5, and that's what we're going out for. And I don't feel good about doing it this way. 'Cause I feel like we're just rushing into this.
You're gonna know that before you even put a ballot question. You're
It's
gonna,
months.
you're gonna know that number before you put a ballot question.
I'm asking you, when is that drop dead date? April?
That's what I'm saying, April,
So
April.
that gives us not even 2 months to come up with all of this information that we're gonna. I don't
I
see
think
how-
we can do it. I think we're at that point that we can do it.
We can do it, and we're gonna go out there and say, okay, we have to do 18 million, because this is all we have, because when I can't see in 2 months, they're gonna come back to us and say, and feel comfortable that there is some wiggle room in that price, and we're gonna go to the voters and say, yep, this is the best we can do, and we came down this amount of money. I don't see what we can do in 2 months. I haven't seen anything really change since the first time we met with them. So I feel like we're being pushed into the corner on this one. I mean, it's a big project to be rushed, first of all. If we're gonna save money just on a general election or a special election, that's pennies for what this project is, and I just feel like we're trying to rush it.
We've been discussing this for over 5 months. It's been
We
going
have,
on,
but
it's
there's
been
been
going
no
on, it's been
change.
going on for over a year right now.
There's been no change in the cost,
They haven't changed the cost.
very little. So we're gonna say, okay, yeah, we did our best, we came down, making $1 million, if that. That's,
It is significant. Everything that we went through the other night when we walked us through that building with the chief, everything that's in that building is what's necessary to have a current date police station.
it's necessary, but it's also still very big. You have to realize we have, maybe I'm wrong on this one number, but maybe we have 26 police officers. So at a given time, like on second or third shift, how many people are in the building? 2 or 3 people? And we have this huge building. I just think that we're rushing into this because yes, we do, there's no doubt we need a police station. Do we need the one at $18 million? I still don't think so. I haven't been convinced that we need to spend this much money. And I really don't think in 2 months I can make that decision to say, okay, voters, this is exactly what we need, and this is how much it's gonna cost us. I don't think I'm ready for that for 2 months, so we can hurry up and rush it into the general election. But I'm only one, I'm just saying, but I just think that's a lot to do in 2 months.
You're not making that decision tonight. You're making a decision that we need to make a new police station. We need to stop pursuing the general election, a vote in the general election, and that we need to retain that time so we can get a design that you like and you approve. That's the motion. It's not for a number yet. We're not at that point. I agree with you, we're not at that point. But these are the steps that we need to do. If you don't want to do anything, then we can just sit back and do nothing, and you'll have to spend $1 million to dump into that building. That's what your options are. And so I'm not committing to a number. I'm not telling you to put a number. I'm putting the process in place so we can get this thing moving.
Let me ask this is clarification. If we get to a point and we come up with a number, we're not locked in. So if we get to a point where, we do all the work and we finally say, and this bad news is okay, we want to make a motion and we go forward with a $17 million project. But at that point, we can still say no.
Right.
We're not locking in right now to have to do something. We can still, when we finally come up with a number, we can say, I'm not comfortable with that number and I'm gonna go no on it.
Right, but we need to do this in 2 months. We need to get a number.
If you want to have a vote in the general election, you need to get this. In the size of the station, and this is where people get confused, and maybe the chief will agree, maybe you'll disagree with me. The size of the station is not relevant, or there's not a direct comparison to the number of men that work there compared to the size. If you had 100 people, you would still need an office for the chief, 3 interview rooms, 4 cells, a command staff room, a patrol room, a meeting room, a training room. You would still need all of those things, even if you had 100 guys in the force. That's what was missing, that people weren't, and I thought TechDon and the chief really explained that. This is what we need in this building. It's not based on the number of patrol officers that we have. It's based on what you need to have a police station. And that is what came across clear to me. Maybe I'm wrong, Chief, is that pretty much what was being said the other night?
Yes.
We need evidence storage, we need it, and we need to have it properly. And so that's what was designed, is what we need. This is not something that's grandiose. This is basic what you need to have a police station.
I understand that, and I also was one of the council members who went and toured stations, so I understand that. But I also understand that this one is pretty big for outside of town. Granted, we need all the stuff that's in there, but it may not be to that size. I mean, you go to Bellingham, they're a lot bigger than us. They had 4 cells. We still are having 6 or 7 cells.
No, we have 4 cells.
No, it got dropped down.
Oh, you mean in the current building, we have 3, but in the new ones, we were going to 4, correct?
No, wasn't that so?
We cut it down. Yeah, it was, it was,
Yeah.
We had 7, but the chief of the staff, but that's what I'm saying. We had discussion, and Tecton hasn't put some of those things into play yet. That's why I want to re-engage them and have them come back. Shrink the size of the fitness area, shrink the size of the cell area, reconfigure some of the spaces, because we've eliminated the police area. We've eliminated the vehicle processing garage. Even though I think it's something that's important to have, we eliminated that part. And so, but they haven't shown yet. We've seen when we've had discussion with them, where it's a decrease in number, it's brought the number down. And that's why I say, well, we engage them, come back to you with a plan saying, here it is, and here's the price tag on it.
So in terms of the 2 months timeframe, not talking about the design of the police station. We're talking about Tecton doing it. All they did is they took a X amount of dollars per square foot. And based on revised square footage numbers, they just applied that. They haven't done a revised floor plan. They haven't done a revised cost estimate. They haven't attempted to economize the building in terms of make sure bathrooms, do the bathrooms and stuff like that. That's what you would get in about a 2-month time period, is revised floor plan, revised project cost, something that reflect the discussions that we had over the past. So, again, just to be clear, we're not talking, you wouldn't design a police station unless you want this should pass. And even then, as Tecton explained, town council had plenty of opportunity during that design process, even further look at and say, you know, that's still too big, or that's too small, or, you know, concerns about the women's locker room can be addressed during design. But in 2 months, that's not design. Nobody can do up for design in 2 months. So it would be a revised floor plan, revised construction cost.
So conceptual.
Yes.
I'm not talking about having it done in 2 months. I think that it's gonna take more than 2 months to do a design. So how long? Once the line. This is,
Yeah.
I'm not a design.
I would say you're probably talking 9 months to a year to do the design. And whenever that's finished, whatever model of construction is kept, then you have to deal with construction period. The alternative would be is if the town would like to go to like a design and build type of concept. Where you're similar to what we did this building, that we do differently. And talk to Alan Sleepy, he did that many times in the city of Providence. Because he was on the tight time frames to build schools and get the kids into the new schools. We can really shorten the design and the construction times that are going on concurrently. And just like this building, the contractor is responsible for the design. And we have to hire someone like that to oversee it to make sure everything is being done correctly. But there's ways you can shorten it, but you know, design takes a while. So Anyways, I just wanted to be clear, what would happen in that 2 months, not gonna happen. Not have a police station design.
If that's gonna take 9 months, when would we actually have the dollar amount that we think we would need to
You have,
spend?
you have a good number in 2 months because they captured all this information and we talked about it in various meetings. They come in, look at the reduced square footage and get a better price. I don't believe it's cheaper for square foot to do some parts of the building than others. So they would probably rehire the cost estimator they have before. With the number, it's not any different than any other town does when they show it on.
Anybody else? Anything further? As long as, at this point, we're not locked in, I'm very comfortable with voting in favor of this, as long as, everybody, we're not locking ourselves into a number right now.
The only thing that'll be difficult is how we engage them. Because, you still have to negotiate a scope. Get your approval run by the task force, get your approval. I mean, that's a tight time frame, but we've done things past before. I'm pretty sure at this point in time, Jeff and Rebecca and the crew know what they have to do. We talked before about maybe doing paying an hourly rate or something like that. It's easy to do with the higher control. But I mean, I can get a scope from them tomorrow, or ask them tomorrow.
What if we get to that point in 2 months, where we present, the council present with a number, and members of the council feel that number is too high, and they vote no? It doesn't leave us any time to say, go back to the drawing board and come back with a lower number. You know what I mean? At that point, we would have to say, well, it's not gonna get on this ballot, maybe it would have to be on a special election.
Suppose, but
Open for discussion to get the number. That's why we would have to re-engage them when they come in. Until this board approves what they may like, not going anything.
I think that the November election should be a goal, but not a deadline. Like, we should make that our goal, yeah, we would like to get on the ballot, but if it's not, if we're not comfortable with that number, I don't want to be. So, the vice president's point, I don't want to feel like we've got to come up with a number because we got to get them, get on the ballot. If that number comes back to the council and the majority of people feel like that number is too high, I don't want the project to then be dead. I want us to say, okay, let's go back and see what we can do, because we need a new police station. It's no question about that. What's the number that we're going to agree on? Must be a different subject. So if in two months they come back and they say X amount of money is too much, I don't feel comfortable with. I don't want the project to be dead. I just really want to just not make on the ballot.
Yeah, I just don't feel like we need to rush to make sure we get into that election, because the cost of a special election is really pennies to this project, and if we're not gonna do it right, and, I just want to go forward knowing that it's the right thing for the town, and we put everything we could into it, we just didn't hurry up and rush through another project, and then afterwards say, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that, and it's just too big of a project to be rushing and say we have to be done in 2 months, because they're gonna come back to us with a drawing, and we're gonna be like, yeah, well, what if we don't like it? And now what do we do? That's what I'm saying. I don't want to be pushed into a corner by saying, okay, we don't have time, this is the number we have to go with, and I just don't want that kind of time constraint. And I feel like that's where we're going with it.
But if we go forward, we just made a motion. I don't think we're going to do it. That was not really like it. Although it was really sad if we make it a deadline, but if we don't make it a deadline, make it over goal, then they can come back to us in 2 months and then say, this is the number. If we're not happy with it, we don't have to be locked into the November ballot. We could be, say, okay, it's gonna have to be a special election because we're not where we want to be right now.
If you noticed when we had that meeting with them, the workshop last week, 2 weeks ago, as we were discussing things, did you notice they were making changes to their drawings, making notations all over their drawings? It would be the same thing when we get to that point where we think we have a floor plan that you guys want, based on all the discussion we had, and if you want changes, they'll make changes as we're discussing things. They've done it with us in the past. It's not like, oh, we're gonna take 2 more months to start this whole thing over again. No. They've done a lot of legwork in this thing already. That's why I want to continue to use them, not start with something new. They've got a good handle on this. This is what they do, and they understand what our needs are. And now it's a matter of getting the council's approval on the floor plan. And we had one set that they put out there, the concept. And they've already looked at making changes to it and reducing things, discussion with the chief and his staff, discussing with us, discussing with the council. And so we want to put all of that now down and come back. And it can be tweaked and revised.
That's fine, but in your motion, I think you said in order to get it on the ballot for this election, I would want to modify that and just say potentially.
I said that we would begin the process of formally preparing for ballot question. Begin the process. And say, well,
Yeah, I don't want to have any dates that it's going to be on this ballot because I don't want anything in any motion to say that we're like enforcing to getting it into this election.
Doesn't say that. Though. We need to begin the process.
That's what we're trying to do.
If we don't put it out there that we want to, this is our goal, and we don't have it out there, then don't say they don't want anything.
No, what I'm saying, and I agree with both of you actually. But what I'm saying is make it a goal, make the November a goal, but it's not a deadline, it's not a drop
It's not a
deadline.
deadline. It's to begin the process formally get it started. It's a long process. It's not going to be done in 3 weeks. It's a process. I've gone through this more than once. It's a process. It takes time. If you don't start at a certain point, you'll never get it. And we need to start at a point.
I think what we all agree on is that we just didn't want to lock into a drop dead date, and then,
And you're not.
okay, that's perfect.
You're not locked into a number, and you're not locked into what's going on in the section of the law. You're beginning the process. That's what the motion is.
Can you just reread the motion?
The town to pursue the construction of a new police station at the present location of 575 Smithfield Road. Also that the town begin the process of formally preparing for a ballot question to be held in conjunction with the election to be held on November 8th,
That's
2022.
That's what I want to say potentially, because there is a date in there.
But we're only beginning the process.
To put it on the general election for this year. That's where we're gonna get that thing. So that's where I would like to say potentially. But I do not want to get back in and then we read that motion 3 months from now or 4 months from now and say, we agreed it was gonna go on the ballot.
We didn't. I didn't say that. I'm saying we begin the process
We put it
to
on.
formally start preparing. It does not say that we're putting it on there. It says we're beginning the process.
This whole government thing is about compromise, just
I understand that. I understand that.
Potentially.
And so, but we need to have a target.
That's
And
our
that-
goal, but it doesn't mean, but by you putting that in without saying potentially have it ready for this election. I don't want you to say, yes, it's gonna be on this election.
It doesn't. It's a,
It's-
we begin the process.
It is saying.
well, I'm with it, but as a compromise, just add potentially, it doesn't change anything. Doesn't change a single thing, say potentially.
If it's ready, it's ready. If it's not, then
If
we don't.
it's not ready, it doesn't go anyways. It's our decision. We just begin the process. If we're not there, it doesn't happen. We just stop the process. It's that simple.
We'll vote yes. Why no? Add potentially.
Where are you gonna add?
Late on the ballot question for November 8th, whatever.
We're gonna formally prepare for a potential ballot question.
I have a ballot question for to potentially fit the general election on the date.
I want this just as much as you do, because this is compromise. That's what it's about, right?
When we have David with the terminology to see that we properly.
I tell you what, if you're not comfortable, I'm fine with it. I understand. Can you give me that, what you said, and I'll read it, and I'll make a motion, and I'll,
What do you make motion? I can amend my motion.
that's what I'm, okay.
Yeah, I can amend the motion, and then I'm just wondering what it's gonna do by changing that word.
Well, what's it gonna do? What's the change then? So if it's not gonna do anything, then we can just do it.
Can we just not put a date, and then if it gets closer to that point, then we can make a motion to, ballot question?
Whatever.
Doesn't August need to be certain
I mean, I know I was thinking about it.
But I don't
really.
I don't see anything wrong in making that. That's a great, I don't see anything wrong with making, setting a goal of November. That should be the goal, but if we don't get there, we have a special election, move on.
I mean,
All right, I'll amend the motion then, that we would, the town begin the process of formally preparing for potential ballot question to be held in conjunction with the election to be held on November 8th, 2022. And lastly, that Tecton Architects be amended, contract be amended to include working with the task force to refine a final plan for council approval.
Get that change, Joanne?
I'll be honest.
Mr. President, you have a motion, you have a second, if they can be withdrawn, you can call the vote, then make another motion.
What I would like to do is I would like to just amend the motion.
You did.
You still got the date. The date's still in there, and that's the tipping point.
It needs to be.
We may
You
not
can
be
have the
ready.
election on March 10th, the following year.
We may not be ready.
This is the whole point.
Let's vote on that. We can vote yes or no.
I mean, is there a reason why the date has to be in there?
Yes,
In the motion? Why?
because we need to get general assembly approval.
Right, but can't we make a motion as it gets closer, as things start to get more solidified?
The general assembly could be done in June.
No, my question is, can we make a motion to move forward to make a new police station, because that's really what's in front of us, and let's say the first meeting in February, we feel more comfortable to say, yeah, I think we are gonna hit that target date of April to get it on the ballot. Then or excuse me, March, then we could possibly make a motion to say, yeah, we're in a position, we're comfortable, we don't need to hold a special election, let's make a motion to get it submitted during the month of April. Whereas to Vice President's point, I think just by putting any date on there, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. Where, quite honestly, if you just take it out, we're still gonna end up meeting that objective, which is we want to build a new police station. We're just not having a date in there. At least we're not having a motion for that date. We can have it we can have that motion in March if things start progressing the way that you foresee it happening. I haven't, but, you know, again, I just feel like we're running in circles.
It takes a lot of time to grow the neighborhood legislation. It takes time to get submitted to the general assembly. It takes time to get voted on. If you miss that window of getting into the general assembly, you will lose a whole year's time.
Right, but I
And I understand people's concerns. You're not committing to anything with this motion, other than the fact that we want to pursue a new police station. We want to potentially look at having it in the general election, and that we want to re-engage Tecton. That's probably the biggest thing that you're doing right now, is re-engaging Tecton to come up with a refined plan that this board approves. That's the biggest decision you're making. That's really the only decision that you're making.
Right, and you just said potentially, and that's what I'm trying to get in this motion, is the word
I
potentially.
did say that.
But you're still referring to the date. We can't confirm, or we don't know where we're gonna be. And I don't want to be locked into a date that we're not ready to go at.
We'll know that. But if we
Then
don't
just
start, if
let's take it out, and then we can go figure it
if we
out.
don't start the process, we'll be behind.
We're all on the same page, I believe, about moving the process ahead. It's whether or not we're gonna reach this election, or we have to do a special election. Like I said, but what it's gonna cost for an election is pennies for this project, so I don't see why we're rushing. But yes, I think we all agree, I have no idea, but I think we all agree that we do wanna move forward. But I'm not gonna move forward with that motion saying that it's gonna be ready for this election.
I think we
So
need-
unless it's
I think we need to put that as a target. I'm not saying, I'm not holding to it, I'm just saying, I think it needs to be the target that we're shooting for.
It could be the goal, absolutely.
It needs
That
to
would
be
be
the
great.
target.
It would be,
And if it's not there, it becomes not the target, that's my point.
no, it
I've
would be
seen
great.
too many things go by the wayside when we don't put
We
targets.
can't get a lot of fun.
We try to get,
They don't want to be locked in, is what they're saying. So it would be great, and that's my goal too. I'd love to see it on, I want to see this happen more than probably most people in here. But it's gotta, we gotta compromise. If they're more comfortable with not locking us into the November, would you say potentially, or even take the date out? It's a minor compromise.
it's legitimate to say potentially, but I don't think we should take the data out. We need to have that as our target date.
We take it out and we'll hold on and see if we want it or not.
If we take it out, what does it change? If we take out the date, what does it change? Well, Mr. Nordstrom, well, if we take out the date and we compromise, what does it change?
More engaged in the discussion and trying to control my position is, but you gotta have a goal in mind.
The goal absolutely can be November, but I'm saying, I don't want it to be dead. So we both, if it comes back, if we say November, and it comes back to us at X amount of money, and the majority of people say, I'm not comfortable with that. And instead of saying, okay, let's work on it, let's keep working on this, instead of locking us into forcing us to go back, to get a number, just so we can make the ballot.
I don't think the deadline itself has to be in the motion. I think it can be a target, but I don't think it has to be in the motion at this point.
We're still gonna do the same, we're gonna go ahead at the same speed, whether we have a date or not, because yes, it would be great to hit November, but who knows? You said it yourself, it could take 9-10 months to see, what we actually want.
You
No,
misunderstood what I said.
no, we're gonna know a price in a couple of months, but it's still gonna
Right.
be, so I just don't see why we have to put that date in there.
I lost you guys and I apologize. You need a number to go to one. That point, if it passes, then you retry, then you go to design, and that number's come down. You want to put it at a certain number, you reduce the scope and cut down space and do whatever you want.
Which is why we can't lock ourselves into the day. I understand what it's, I'm on your side here, I am, and I'm on Paul's side. I'm just, as a compromise, there's nothing wrong with taking out some people are uncomfortable with the date being in there, then let's take it out, doesn't change anything.
But I'm still not sure what your expectations you have.
Same thing, nothing changes, nothing changes at all, except.
You know what, you want those garages out of there, you want less sales, you want.
That's, yeah,
Well, that's what you just said, we're gonna find out in 2 months, right?
Well, they gave you 3 different options. Right? And we had a public hearing on it, and we had 2 presentations on it. What's your inclination on what direction you want them to go? Because right now, we'll be spinning their wheels. They're gonna be trying to come up with a floor plan, what, that they think is appropriate based on the feedback that you give them. Is that what your expectation is?
What changes though? What changes from that point of view, because we're saying we're not locked into the date? Just excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah.
Mr. Iglesias, are you up there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. President.
So what are your thoughts on this? If we change the wording, if Mrs. Bagney changes the wording and just takes out the date, it doesn't really change the goal here of trying to make it the deadline. It doesn't change anything about the motion or the project at this point, right? We're just trying to not be locked into a date.
I just think it's, there's no legal aspect of this. It's just strictly a discretionary decision by the council. Do you want to be working towards a November ballot question? Or do you want to just be working towards determining if you can come to a number that you can all agree on, irregardless of the ballot?
But those two things are not really separate. So you can still be working towards the goal of being on November, but still not be locked into the date. That can be the goal. Doesn't have to be the deadline.
I think that's definitely an opinion of the council can take either one way or the other. This is not really a matter of legality. This is a matter of approach.
This is, you want this to fail right now over a stupid technicality? Let's just change it. Change the date, take the date out of it, or potentially. And move on. We're gonna keep the process going. We need a new police station.
I've amended my motion at the request that the word previously in there. At this time, I do not want to remove the date. I think that needs to be the goal. If you want to vote it down, then vote it down. Mr. President, please move the question.
Does anybody else have anything further to add at this time? Well, I would think,
Mr. President, point of order. I called to move the
I
question.
said, second the discussion, I have a right to discussion. I'm just trying to. Yes, I do.
When the motion is called to move the question, you need to move the question. Discussion ends. The point of order.
Okay, first of all, I'm the president, I'm gonna decide when the discussion ends. Right now, I'm gonna continue the discussion. And what I'm saying is, if we do shut this down, if we do vote this down, we can make another motion, one that we're more comfortable with achieving the same thing. I just want everybody to understand that. Go votes.
So,
No,
Mr. Corriveau,
No,
Mr. Burrow,
no,
Mr. Bagley,
Yes.
Mr. Gerardo.
No. Now, it does not mean this police station is not gonna happen. I would like to make another motion at this time. I don't know if Mr. Van, if you'd be agree with letting me see your motion. I just want to add a couple of things to it. I don't know if you, let me use your sheet or whatever.
I'll make a motion.
But I want to be specific. I think you time.
No, all due respect, Mr. President, when I call the motion to move the question, that ceases discussion. That supersedes your role as president. That's just procedure. And so you obviously know better than I on how to run this and how to go about proceeding with this. And so if your concern is that you don't want a date on it and you want a new police station, then please make any motion that you feel is appropriate to move this process forward. I made the motion that I feel is best for the town. And it didn't pass, and that's okay. I can live with that.
It's just you weren't willing to compromise at all. You weren't willing to
I
compromise.
did.
No,
I
you weren't.
did.
The thing is, I'm on your side on this, but I'm more willing to compromise. I don't understand why. Don't make me the bad guy here. I'm trying to get this thing done and work a compromise here, but you're not willing to
Then
compromise.
make a motion. Make any motion that you please.
Okay, what I'll do now, I'll have to wait till next meeting. Now you're gonna force me to wait till next meeting so I can review the tape and make the proper motion. Instead of just giving me your cheat sheet over there. Because I don't want to forget, so if that's the way you want it to be, we can do it that way.
so you're not gonna pass them, give them the sheet? Is this not a team, or is this just, play games? We're not.
Was anybody listening to the motion that I read 3 times?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why we do it.
Okay. So then please make your own motion, and if you didn't like the motion that I was making, please make your own.
I love your motion. I just wanted to add something. It'll take something out. It was perfect.
We took something on it.
No, we didn't. We just added. We didn't make it. So that's what you're gonna make this slow down, this process. You're saying we're gonna slow down, you're gonna make this process slow down another week? 2 weeks till the next meeting, so to make the motion?
Well, technically, you can't make a motion then.
Sure, I can.
And maybe Mr. Pigliozzi will address this, but you can't make the same motion twice.
It's not the same motion. It's not the same motion.
My motion is already.
So,
I'd like to make a motion to contract with Tecton Architects to move forward with the potential new police station at Smithfield Road as a goal to go to general election in this year. If not, we will have to move on to a special election. But I would ask that we contact with Tecton to move forward and get further information in person.
Second,
we have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Corriveau?
Yes.
Mr. Merrill?
yes,
Mr. Radley?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, it was easy.
So again, just to be clear, I'll go back to Tecton. My direction to them will be to the best of their ability, take all the information they gleaned from all the meetings they had. Monthly revised floor plan. Want to see the floor plan for the estimate. Actually, it's right there. We can go over the floor plan because then they would be going to their concurrently, they can have a company do the revised cost estimate. And then we'd be looking toward making the building more efficient, see if we can cut the cost down.
Right, nothing changes, Paul, as far as,
Well,
with one motion to the other.
in your world, it doesn't change. My world is an engineer that's done this 45 years. It's peculiar what you're asking, so I said it can't be done. It's not the usual way things flow. But we'll make it work. We'll make it work. So are you comfortable that you've got the point across the Tecton on what you want to see and what you don't want to see in the building in terms of the floor plan? Strike that. In terms of the size of the rooms, now they're located. So for instance, we talked about reducing the size of the conference room, increasing, changing the size of the locker room, going to 4 cells. Is that what you want to see revised floor plan?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think that the meeting,
On the 19th?
yeah, I mean, to me, it looked, a lot different than what it did prior to that. You know, just the original floor plan and stuff that was taken out, kind of resized.
It was the same floor plan.
No, I'm referring to, like, for example, there were 7 cells, right? Those were
But
reduced
they
down.
didn't mark them up on the things, they just, but I understand what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
So you would want to see a floor plan that reflected kind of what happened on the 19th.
Just those
And
revisions.
then costs associated with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if we have to meet with them, you know, as it goes, so that we can all, you know, along with the
Well,
chief,
I-
obviously, and if things,
Certainly want them to be present when we look at the floor plan. They can get less, they can shoot information to the bus system. But it's a little unprecedented, but
Well, I don't understand why it's not personal.
yeah, that's what the difference is.
There's no difference, but still the goal is still to be on the ballot.
nothing to do with that. Has to do with the process, how an architect or an engineer goes about a project.
Nothing changes. The goal
You're
is to be there.
You're asking the architect to do design level work. It's like a 30% design. So let me worry about that, okay?
All right, all right.
I'm just saying, my point is, we can make it work. Yeah, I have to get a proposal from them and run that by you. council meeting, we have to meet as a task force. We just have to- I can actually do the email tonight.
And not to beat a dead horse, but if we didn't change anything, and then they came to us and they said, okay, the numbers, they can say, no, X, Y, Z, that's a no. And the council said, voted no, then it would be dead. We're just trying to keep it alive and say, now if they come back to us and say it's X, Y, Z, and we say we're not comfortable with that, we can say, back to drawing board. Let's keep this going, let's keep this alive. It's the only thing that changes.
I understand what you're saying, and you understand the time frame, and you understand that there's a local trust and problems with the building now, and hopefully,
I want to keep this alive.
not having with make it work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on now. Discussion by council, what other action on update of Halliwell Review Committee. Corriveau.
I'm actually gonna ask Jeff if he has any words on our meeting from last week, and I noticed that there was an update on the work chart, is that right?
You want to do both the old business and new business, both those together?
Yes.
5 minutes.
Hold on. Yes, NG, yep, thank you. So we're gonna move G up here as well, discussion by council of action on amending resolution for the Halliwell Review Committee.
So, as everybody knows, we had our meeting with you folks last Thursday, a joint meeting, where I felt that we had a very productive conversation. It was very good to have that collaborative effort moving forward. So I think at this point tonight, we're still looking for action from the committee to revise our charge a little bit so we can continue moving forward. I did send along to the council president and Mr. Corriveau basically a timeline. I have more copies that I can share with the council.
You have it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Great.
Never mind then.
Joanne's on top of it. Thank you. So I know there was a lot of discussion about, what steps we need to take to move forward in one way or another. This timeline that I provided to you folks essentially demonstrates the potential timeline for the demolition and abatement, but at the same time, the 4 other charges that we're asking to be part of our new charge, which is, having the architectural and engineering master plan, RFQ, exploring wetlands for recreation with the planner, investigating funding opportunities, begin discussions with community-based organizations, and continue exploring and evaluating the community uses for the property. So what I really want to underscore, though, is because I heard loud and clear about the concerns about the demolition and the abatement, making sure that gets completed. I wanted to show that if this is a perfect world scenario, if everyone is, amenable, agreeable, this could potentially get done very quickly, especially the demolition. And Ray, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the testing for the hazardous materials is occurring this week. So I would give those consultants about another 3-4 weeks to write their report, come back with their abatement specifications and project manual. While we're waiting for them to do their report, we could prepare an RFP for demolition of the property. Once we receive the abatement, you could potentially put that RFP out for costs, and then you could have a really good idea of what it's going to cost to demolish all those buildings. And then it will be your prerogative to either award it or say, okay, that's noted in our budget. We understand that's the number that we need to work with. We can certainly work to find some escalation numbers, but at least there's a definitive number for the demolition. And all while that's happening, we're going to be looking to you to obviously, you're not going to be making any final decisions on what the resolution is tonight. I would assume you would have the solicitor go write rewrite the resolution, and then you'd be voting on it at your next meeting. All while that happens, that brings us to a couple weeks out, and then that master plan RFQ process, that would then kick off at the end of the month. And by that time, we go through the interview process, we go through the process that similar to the MBRTF has gone through. And at that time, when we do come back to recommend an architecture and engineering firm, we'll already know the cost of the demolition. And meanwhile, we have all those items 16, 17, 18, and 19 all still work going forward as we do all these other things. So when I said last week that we can have quite a few balls in the air juggling, this would essentially be an idealized timeline that we could follow. It certainly wouldn't be, it's not definitive, but it's certainly there just to show what we can be doing with all these different items that the committee has since recommended to go forward with.
Jeff, I'm with you almost all the way. All right, this is my concern. If we go for an RFQ, all right, so we get qualifications for an architect. Are we getting ahead of ourselves? Because what is the architect going to design if we decide to partner with? And I hate to keep going back to this, but say we go with the Y will have very specific designs, they probably have their own architects. We should be with, I did have a conversation with somebody as a chance meeting just yesterday, who you met at, came here and spoke to you guys, but it was just a chance meeting at a funeral. So, at the coalition, we didn't actually do it. But anyway, what he was saying is that he suggested that because they're very excited about Halliwell. They are very excited about, they love the location. They love the idea of it being, because they're shutting down Woonsocket. So they love the location of Halliwell. It's in between Woonsocket and Corriveau. They love the location physically, the way it's situated on Halliwell grounds. And they said that they would work with you, with us, with their architects, help design the building, and their architects would probably do it for a lot cheaper than something that we could do. It seemed like they wanted to be a partner from the ground up, not just kind of bring them along after we already have a design for a building.
Sure. My concern would be, and I would defer over to the solicitor, because we are a municipality, we are bound to the Rhode Island laws of procurement. So whether or not that means we can say, there could be millions of ways around it, but at this current time, the way that I've done work and I've gone through the process, we would have to go through that qualifications process. So, the architects from the Y, they certainly apply for this RFQ. But again, I would defer to the solicitor if that's not the way the process works. But I would be very surprised if we could do it a different way.
See, if I was going to build a gym, it would look very different than the gym that the YMCA would build. If your architect was to build a gym or a fitness center or whatever, it would could look very different than what the YMCA would have. I just think that we should bring them in as a partner from the ground floor instead of.
Sure, and that's what I had made reference to last week as well. It's certainly not going, whatever community-based organization we start talking with, we're not going to be shutting them out from this process, because there's people that have gone through this process plenty of times before us, and we can certainly learn from them as we go forward. So as I said last week, they would certainly have a seat at the table so that they could help inform us to what this design is. We want to be able to have the ability to say, we know our town, we understand the wants and needs. We've had this group come in and assist us in directing this, but then we're also following the rules of the state that says we have to go out for qualification process.
Mr. President, I agree with you I think we're ahead of the game with the RFQ, but for a number of different reasons, and one of them is related to the why. I think that all of those issues that we heard about the other night, we need to investigate them further, like this partnership with the Y. It needs to be really dug into and investigated and find out what all the nitty gritty is to this thing. There could be a lot of detail in there that we're not aware of, and we need to find out before we even, before we say, yeah, let's pursue this further. We need a lot more information on that. Things like the food bank, how's that gonna work down there? How are seniors gonna be involved in the community center? How are the youth groups gonna be involved? One of the things that we were talking about was other potential uses of that site, and it occurred to me after the meeting the other day. For years and years, Paul, we've been talking about the library, that it's not big enough, it needs to be expanded, that they can't expand rid of the stuff. And we even looked at bringing the library on the Halliwell site. There's a potential use there. I'm not saying that we would be funding it, but it's a potential town service that could be put on that site, and we did look at that. It's one of the things that we did look at. We looked at a lot of other things. So I think that there's still a lot more things that we need to drill down into and get more information before we're ready to hire for an RFQ, to hire an architect to come in and start doing master plan work and whatnot. I mean, the Halliwell Review Committee said that there's a lot more community meetings that need to be done to find out what folks want to see in that building. So before we get to that point, we need to know what's going to be in that building. We do, and we don't. Other than the fact that they want to build a community center, and no one's saying no to that. We just need to know more details to that before we can go forward. So it would be my recommendation that we go forward with items 16, 17, 18, 19 on the list of things that we put those on the updated resolution saying, okay, here's the next steps that we want you guys to pursue. I think those are the appropriate things that we should have them pursuing, so we can get more information as we drill down on this stuff.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I agree with Councilman Madden about 16, 17, 18, and 19. But I also think that, when we first met with the Y, when they came to speak to the Halliwell, it was very high level discussion, and we only had one meeting with them, and they kind of took the approach of, not only are they very accommodating, but kind of that anything goes type marketing, where it's very open-ended. And I think that, it would benefit the review committee to have them in and really have them be a little bit more explicit as far as what they can and what they can't do, what they can provide as far as resources and what they can provide as far as, grants or anything like that, and what they can't. And kind of nailing it down that way. And then I would recommend, if it's approved by the Halliwell committee, then the next step would be to have the Y come in front of the council to present. Not necessarily the Halliwell review, communicating what the Y said, but really deciding whether the Halliwell thinks it's worthwhile to bring the Y to in front of the council.
Right, we exhaust that, at the very least, exhaust that potential.
Right.
Right.
Right. Or any other partnership that, we might have to them, just so it's not a waste, anybody's time. But that would be the only other thing that I would put down on here. I don't think I just, okay, yeah.
I think that was on the number 18,
Right.
community-based organizations.
Yeah. Yeah, if we were to revise the resolution, then I would just add those to it. Modify it that way.
Yeah, I mean, the Y might come along and then at the end of this day might say, hey, you know what, I was wrong, it wasn't a great fit, but I want to exhaust that possibility.
Just one thing, I don't necessarily think that, as far as 18 community-based organizations, it taking 6 months to assess that to get, one or two community organizations in front of the council. I would probably say we could probably at least have it filtered through the Halliwell Review Committee within the next 60 to 90 days tops.
Are you comfortable with that, Jeff?
I'm comfortable with whatever direction you folks feel.
I know, but, you know, we value your opinion and, you know,
No, I've worked a lot on public projects. I understand, as Mr. Bennett does with public project, building projects, they take a long time. And the one thing that a lot of the committee members have noted is that there's a lot of excitement behind this project. So we want to be able to have visualizations to show we're making progress. We're hearing what people are saying. We understand what the needs of the town are. My concern about, the issue of doing more investigations to really understand what's going to go into this building, that's really where an architect comes in. An architect that has a specialty in community built based buildings. So there may be things, like I said, there may be things from one architect that they've done plenty of buildings like this before, where they've learned these lessons, where they understand that they can tell us that, this has really worked for us well in the past. And, we could have an idea that, say, we do one thing and then that idea doesn't work out very well. So I think that's really the additional community meetings that we're talking about was further investigations as a charrette like we did last July, identifying, further drilling down what's going to be in this community-based building, because our committee isn't equipped to be able to handle that kind of interactions. We needed someone who's gone through that process and who's gone through it plenty of times and kind of be the moderator. Because I don't want the committee to be sitting behind a desk saying, okay, we hear you and now this is what's going forward. It's kind of a collaborative approach. So, again, whatever the direction that the council agrees on, we're grateful for, and we're happy to continue doing our work. But I am a little saddened that we won't be looking at the RFQ process right away, because again, we just want to continue doing our research, and that having a paid professional certainly helps us move that along. So.
I just have a question. Is there any downside to putting on an RFQ? There's no cost involved or anything.
is that, don't correct me if I'm wrong, it's not really a downside, but if we have, these guys are professionals, they have business to run, do we really want to get them to do all this work when we may not even be going that way? Let's figure out which way we want to go. And then, because we may hire these guys and we come up with, okay, we're gonna go with this guy. He's a great qualifications. And then we go down that road and we're like, no, that's not really what we wanted. We're gonna go with this, with this concept. Yeah, we really, is that really?
I think we need more concrete answers, like, the seniors. Are the seniors gonna be in there? What do the seniors need there? What does AG well need there? What does AG well gonna bring up to the picture? Are we gonna do a partnership with the Y? All of those things we need answers to before we move, before we say, yes, this is the move. I think there's still a lot of that work to be done before we get there.
And I still think we need to find out how much the first, which thing on our
Oh,
checklist is
definitely.
going to be, right?
That's the biggest mission.
Before we know where we can go or what we're gonna do, I think we're all waiting for that result.
Certainly.
And then once we have that result, then I guess we have to know what we have left to cover that and what we don't have to cover. So I think a lot of it is kind of waiting on the test results.
Right.
So, you're saying everyone's gonna sit around, but these
No, those
five
are-
things we're adding, that's all.
Those will
research.
certainly keep us busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's, you guys, we definitely don't want you to stagnate, but it seems like there's a lot of opportunity here for a lot of research and going out to the community, which doesn't hurt, because the more information you can get,
Exactly.
like you said, yeah, there's 400 people that responded, but we could get some more traction now that it's out there, and people are thinking about it. a little bit more, you know, like Mr. Barney said, he didn't even think about the library, but other people are out there thinking, hey, why don't we do this? So maybe we'll start getting some more feedback, and we can continue having public meetings while you're still doing this research too.
Right. And then, one other thing too, and this is certainly much further down the line with, when we get into that master plan. If it's the council's prerogative, you can set a budget for us and we'll, aside from the police station and the cost of the police station, if you guys figure that, X amount of dollars is going to go into building this community center. There have been more than enough times where my firm has been given a dollar amount. They say, put 10% aside for owner's contingency, and this is your budget, your entire project cost budget. So if it's your prerogative to move forward to say, this is kind of the number that we're working with, we can certainly share that with an architect and they design to it. And that's certainly another way that we can make sure that we're keeping an eye on costs and understanding numbers and all the budgetary items that come along with that.
So at this point, just to keep the ball rolling, we have to take action or vote on amending the resolution, correct? Adding these four things.
So we're looking at amending the resolution that include 16, 17, and 18.
19.
16, 17, 19. Right.
More or less, yeah. Yeah, I think if you still have my December letter, it's all written out in that too.
So we're just taking off basically your letter from December 23rd, we're just taking off number 1.
Exactly.
Yep, for now.
Yep. No, that's fine. And then I don't know if any action items are required for our first recommendation would be for the demolition, to start that process. I might recommend that the council considers additionally starting the task of writing out the RFP for demolition, so in that way it's prepared. You guys will have to vote on it regardless of whether it gets issued or not, but it could be worthwhile just having that document ready for when you receive the abatement plan, that you can put that out and then get a number.
Is that the one you've already created and gave to us before?
The original RFP was for the hazardous materials testing.
Okay.
I have not provided anything for demolition. But if the council wishes, I can put that on our agenda for the Halliwell Review Committee at our next meeting to put together a draft, formalize it, recommend it to you folks. We can certainly look to do that. I don't know if the town has gone through, it might be just as easy to pull what was for the Stamina Mill building. That was procured by the town.
A little different process. Then the bill was unsafe for the folks, so they didn't know the bacon specific. They hit it with water and then they had to clean the ground around, so this would be different.
We didn't do stamina mills, so the EPA did stamina. We didn't do stamina mills, the EPA did.
Yeah, EPA, but it's a different approach.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution for the Halliwell Review Committee to include exploring the wetlands for recreation with the town planner and DEM, investigate funding opportunities, begin discussions with community-based organizations, and to have the Halliwell Review Committee continue exploring and evaluating community uses of the property.
Motion, second. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Corriveau?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes, so this is, we'll send this to Mr. Gliosi with the changes. And then we'll have a resolution at the next meeting.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
were saying if we asked you to go back and create an RFP for the demolition, you guys can work on that, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But that's not in the works right now, right?
No, it's not. But we can prepare something, review it at our next meeting, and then formally recommend it to you for the next council meeting. If that's the, or it could just be, we could make a motion that you, sorry to put this on the call, but put it on the administrator and the finance director and the planner to write it up and put it out.
I was gonna ask the administrator,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask the administrator, because I wasn't here when the original, when you guys are looked to tear down this thing, the town had looked into it at one time, and I think they issued an RFP.
All through EPA, it was all through environmental protection.
Right, originally didn't the town look into it, and they got quotes from a couple of people, but it was way over the budget because of the asbestos that was in there. But I agree with you that on one aspect, we need to have that report. We can start writing up the RFP, because it's gonna dictate what's in that RFP.
Absolutely, we'll get that another couple of weeks, 3 weeks,
Yeah,
right, 3-4 weeks.
But I understand, the abatement issue is going to be clearly outlined in the report that we get from ECM, our consultant that's been hired. All the RFP has to do is reference that as an amendment. It doesn't have to, and then the scope of work is demolish the buildings, make safe and demolish the buildings, and that's your scope of work for the project. So you could say, it's as simple as this, put all the legalities that need to go into it, the scope of work, demolish the 11 buildings that are on site, make safe all the utilities back to the poles and sewer tiebacks and water mains. And then you would refer to the abatement report for all of the hazardous materials removal. So it could just be very, very simple like that.
Not quite that simple. Not quite that simple. It's pretty detailed. It's pretty detailed when you get into it, because the abatement issue is gonna be really gonna weigh in on it. And the gas lines there, the water lines there, the sewer lines there, the drainage lines. There's a number of issues there, and a lot of them don't even have as-bills. These guys are literally gonna be out there trying to trace lines, because nobody knows where they are. Underground water lines, underground gas lines. No one's really sure where they are. We've had these issues in the past with maintenance down there. It's a little more detailed than just, it's not a simple boilerplate plan, plugging the dates and the names and stuff, so it's more detailed than that.
We'll do that report first and then take it from there. So then what may be required is a survey of the property. If we're looking, because there's no as-built, as Mr. Benny said, we could be having a survey to identify where these items are. So, and I don't believe that exists at this point.
I'm not aware of any aspect.
All right, so for the first things first, we're gonna get the abatement report, and then we'll know where we stand from there, and then we'll take it one step at a time.
I mean, even the abatement report, if you hire someone, you can get someone off an MPA to do the abatement report. Even then, you hire somebody, they gotta wait 10 days, because they gotta submit it to the Department of Health for approval before they can even start. And so there's a number of issues in this thing.
Yeah.
It's not, it can be smooth sailing, it can go nice and easy, but everything needs to be lined up and equal. It's not just a simple, yeah, okay, go ahead.
I know, I was hoping to sell off the contents of the classrooms, but probably we can't do that now.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, John. Chief Chartier. Special council vote on the action on staffing plan and goals for North Smithfield Fire and Rescue due to demand for emergency medical services.
I'm assuming you all have the proposal that I submitted on request for, yes, for potential options for staffing. To bring on some extra staffing to staff another unit for rescue service. Obviously, just running through it really quickly. Excuse me. The goal here with these two. The goal here is to eventually reach 24-hour, additional 24-hour coverage and staff an additional unit. So option number one, as you see it, calls for the addition of 2 personnel over the course of 4 years. Eventually bringing on 8 new personnel in year 4. That will give us the ability to additional unit on duty, increasing staff size from 5 to 7. Option number 2 that I submitted accomplishes the 24-hour goal a little bit quicker in adding 4 personnel over the course of 2 years and reaching the 24-hour staffing goal in 2, putting that unit on a lot quicker. The concern that I have, and not, it's way too early to forecast where we're going to accurately forecast where we're headed in 22. But I'm not sure that option number 1 will keep up with the demand that we're seeing as of right now. I gave you the annual report and gave you the numbers the last time I was here, but where we're at right now, just 2 months into 22, for the month of January, we responded to 194 calls for EMS service. And we had to bring in EMS mutual aid from other communities 26 times throughout the course of January. For the month of February, we're nine days into the month. We've responded already to 62 requests for EMS. We've brought in mutual aid in 9 days, 13 times. So that's a basic forecast of about 194, 192 calls a month if we stay on that track. We'll do 93 more EMS calls in 22 than we did in 21. So the trend is, right now, is still continuing up. Granted, I get it, we're only a month and a half, a month and 9 days into the year. This thing can go up and down. But we have to take that into consideration when we're looking at this. So, if there are any questions, if anybody has any questions on where we're at or where we're headed.
As you continue to see the numbers keep increasing year after year, is there some rationale why it's increasing? Our population isn't growing that fast.
Right. I know a lot of people think it's COVID related, but I would beg to differ with that. My personal opinion is we have a large elderly community in the town, so we see a lot of elderly people. That's a lot of our service. We have a major thoroughfare that runs through town, so we do a lot of work out on 146. As I said the last time I was here, Dowling Village keeps us steady, but it's not the only thing. And then the elderly complexes and the village of San Antoine and the villa, they keep us pretty busy. So I can't really put my finger on exactly why, but that's our assumption.
Do you find that there's more of a need in daytime or at nighttime?
Yeah, we did a 6-year study on the busiest times of the day and the busiest days of the week. And they're all over the place every year, but we're finding that the busiest time of day is anywhere between 7 in the morning and 7 at night. And the busiest day of the week is in concession Monday through Friday. But they're not far, but Saturdays and Sundays, and the latter times of the day aren't far behind. You know, it's not like we go way down after 7 o'clock at night, or Saturdays and Sundays, there's no activity. This past Saturday we had mutual aid in 5 times. We had mutual aid in twice today. So it's, you know, it's not far behind.
Well, I'm just asking, you know, as you phase in, it would probably be better time to phase it in.
Sure.
If they're gonna be spot time in a certain time.
I think the plan, if you take a look at the options that I gave, phasing them in option 1, we're kind of limited, because that would only give us 2 people. We would only be able to staff a unit 5 days a week, 8.5 hours a day. As opposed to if we went with option 2, where we're bringing on 4 people at a time. Now I can put that truck on 7 daytimes a week, 12 hours a day. The rational thing would be to do 7 to 7. So, and that gives us more hours right away, as opposed to waiting 2 years to get to that point.
When you get a call, people want to go to Marion or go to Round Hospital as opposed to Landmark, that impacts
Does,
your service.
yes, absolutely.
Do you find you're doing more of those runs now?
We are, because of the problems in the emergency rooms. Landmark is really stressing. So they're closed a lot. They may be closed 2 or 3 hours at a time, 4 or 5 hours at a time. So what that does is that puts a lot of stress on everything at this end of the state. Now, one socket has to go to, Providence. We have to go to Providence. So now, if we need mutual aid, maybe one socket's not available, because they've got 2 trucks around the same boat. Correct. And then, when we're in the city, after a transport, that obviously extends our time on service. We're at Rhode Island. It's really busy down there right now. Turnaround time at Rhode Island Hospital, at least an hour, probably an hour and 15, hour and 20. So it's a long time. So we're seeing a lot of delays with that as well.
So these are 4 personnel by your note here. They're entry level. Meaning you're not gonna hire from another town if it happens.
No, we've already done, I had 2 vacancies, 2 firefighters that went to other communities, so we just went through a hiring and application period, so I have candidates on the list, assuming they haven't been hired by every department, so I'm pretty much ready to go with that.
Okay.
I would have to bring them into more interviews and see where they're at, and like I said, hopefully they haven't been hired elsewhere. If that's the case, then we would have to start the process over again.
So the pay is not, it's not a range, it's whatever the base hourly wage is.
Correct. They would be covered under the firefighters union CBA. They would come in on a probationary level pay, and then, move up from that.
Okay, so from the time they apply, so it's a long process, so how long is the process from the time they apply to they actually find out that they're hired?
Are you assuming if I have to start over again? Or, okay, if I have to start over again, what I typically do is I advertise for at least 30 days. We take all the applications. As the applications are coming in, I'm vetting the applications to see who meets the qualifications, who doesn't. Once we determine all that and the application period closes, then we invite the candidates in for an interview process. We give them the interview, and then we pick them from there. That's typically 2 interviews, probably a week apart. And then we make a contingent job offer for whoever the top candidates are.
So is there always an academy, or how often do they run them?
So right now, what's happening down at the fire academy, because Director Perry and his staff has done a great job. They're actually a victim of their success down there. Almost every community in the state goes there now. So you've got to get on board really quick if you know there's a class coming up. As I said, We have 2 candidates in the academy right now. That's the first one since last November. He doesn't run academies during December and January because of the cold weather. He's afraid of slips and falls and doesn't want anybody getting hurt, because the first 6 weeks or so of the academy is classroom. So they started Monday. As they start to transition to hands-on stuff, and then we'll be getting a little bit warmer. There's a class starting right behind them at the end of February. Those guys will be in for 3 weeks. Then there's a class starting in March. So right now, there's a lot of classes that are being offered, but I think at some point, he's gonna have to limit it to maybe 3 times a year. You know, maybe in February, maybe another one in May or June, and then another one near the end of the year in fall. But we just have to monitor that and make sure, that they have spots and and we have applicants, correct. He's very good about it. If fire departments know they have people coming on, like I knew I had these vacancies coming up. When that happened in September, I called him right away and said, look, I need 2 spots for the February academy, and he put them aside for me right away. So if we can forecast that, then it'll work out for us. The key is, people that we have, if they're still available. If we have to stop the process again, then that puts a delay on things.
What's your manpower situation right now? Are you down?
We're down to, yes,
So this, the 2 that will bring you back to even.
correct.
Okay.
That'll bring us to 23. 20 on the floor, response personnel, and then 3 day staff, myself, the deputy, and fire marshal.
And because of the structure of the way we do it, very unusual, the way we run the fire department, as a private corporation. So we would have to, if we did agree to put X amount of people on, it would have to be, we have to make sure that the money, we couldn't just throw the money at the corporation and then hope that they put 2 more guys on, I'm sure they would be in agreement to make it clear that that money was exactly.
Yeah, it would have to be part of our operations budget set aside for staff, for salaries.
Right.
We do contracted service with them,
Right.
and so we would have a contract.
This is-
That we approve the administrative sign, it would say, this is what we're gonna pay you for service, this is what we're gonna get for services. It would show that reflection of increased manpower.
Which we're starting very soon, right, Jim?
I'm sorry?
We're starting that contract negotiations
Yes, sir.
very soon.
Do we know, what is the approximate cost for 2 personnel?
What's the cost per person?
Per person is about 108,000. That's all in. That's salaries, that's salaries, that's, factored in vacation and sick time, holidays, pension expense, FICA, health insurance, dental, accidental death and dismemberment insurance, training, protective clothing, uniforms, everything, all in is about 100. And that's at these numbers for this year. I'm expecting to change dramatically.
You're looking at the turnaround times for almost 6 months between someone actually applies and actually starts.
If everything, hypothetically speaking, if you folks gave us some men, I've spoken to Director Pear, I have some academy spot put aside for September. So that's all set. He understands that, this doesn't happen, that's fine, and he'll have plenty of notice on that. But if all this goes forward, I would do more interviews, and assuming that we don't have to redo the process, if we hire candidates, they would start in the fire academy in the latter part of August, early part of September. They would be there for 12 weeks. Once they come to us after they graduate after 12 weeks, they do a minimum of 4-week orientation training here, and then they're ready to go. So we're looking at about 16 weeks before they're staffing in.
You'd be looking at the beginning of June.
Correct.
Yeah, from now.
Correct.
Anybody have something more questions for the chief before we move on to the next agenda item, which is related to this one?
So one more question. So we have enough trucks and rescues?
We do,
to-
yes. Yeah, we have 3 rescues right now. 2 of them are frontline, and 1 of them is a spare. And the way I'm gonna disperse the staffing, we will be able to put both of those trucks on the road with an additional crew left behind so that we don't leave the town empty. The way we're running right now, we get 2 rescue calls. And both of the only 2 crews that we have on duty are down at Marion, and they're down at Rhode Island. There's no one covering this town. Frequently, we have to bring in mutual aid to send an engine truck here just to at least cover us while they're gone. So what we would be able to do is, while those crews are transported, would be a 3-man crew here, still left in town and able to respond to whatever the emergency may be.
I got one last question. So you said that you're down 2, right? Down 2 personnel?
Correct.
Right now? So does that include the 8 that's here or no?
No, that's.
So you hire 2 and then 8 more?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Those 2 have already been hired. They're in the academy right now. They
That's
just
just to
started.
bring it to his current comp. The 2 that are the academy, will bring it to the current comp.
Correct.
It's not impacting the service other than that you've got guys working overtime to fill in for the 2 guys.
Yes.
that are out.
A lot of overtime.
When you go on a call, 2 guys are in the rescues.
Yes.
Go to the call.
Right.
2 guys are in a truck. That's right. They go to the call. Why do they have to go? Why do all 4 or 5 members have to go? to that?
Depends on the situation of the call. I mean, if it's an auto accident anywhere in town, the fire truck brings all the extrication equipment. There's a fire,
Goes it down.
so that's a no-brainer. But the rest of them, it easily can turn into an advanced life support type of call where you need a few extra pairs of hands. It could be a cardiac arrest. It could be a choking victim. But my guys are really good about it when they get there. The rescue gets there first. They can assess quickly to say, hey, you know what, we don't need those 3 guys, so let's get them back in service so that they can come back to the station. And now they're manning the station where they would take whatever needs to go next. It could be a rescue call or it could be a fire call.
Because all you guys are trained. They were all.
Yeah, well, they're all in
all
the
the
advanced EMT card packs, correct?
I mean, I've seen it personally. That's why I asked that question, that they all come
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah.
You need all 4
There are
guys.
a lot of things that they do require more than 2
They'll
sets
come
of
with
hands.
it, but once it's in service or they realize that they may go back to the station, they don't all go down to the hospital.
That's right.
Just-
That's right.
Anybody else? Thanks, chief.
All right, thank you.
Stick around, we're just gonna run up some questions on the next agenda, item, if you don't mind. Just for a couple minutes. C, discussion by council vote on other action on consideration from budget committee, fire department staffing. My suggestion is that I would like to recommend the budget, ask the budget committee to look at what we can do, if we can do 4. If they think we can do 4, then we should do 4, but let's send this to the budget committee for review, and let's see what they, the budget season is upon us. And let's see what we can come up with for the next budget. But I think we should agree that should be at least
Well,
2.
it should be reviewed by the budget committee, absolutely, because we need to act on it in July.
Right.
We're gonna do something, knowing that even if we do it in July, we're not seeing it results until January. So it's something that we need to have them look at, and study for us.
I'm in first line, but there are a lot of old people in town. There are all of people when calls are called out. When I think nothing's needed, because you don't have the power. So 4 shouldn't be thought about. It should be the accepted norm, at least. Because, this isn't moving something, this is a life. And I made a big mistake, I had a heart attack. They wanted I can drive myself. When I got to the hospital, let me tell you, I will never do that again. So some people say, oh, we can't bother them. Well, maybe things will turn out a lot better times if we can. And to me, this is a luxury, this is a necessity. And, that budget, you know, if we have to cut somewhere else. it's,
Yeah, question, what is the cost of, what did we pay to seek assistance from other towns? Let's say, for example, the month of January, we said, 26 times we had called from other surrounding towns for assistance.
The way I have
Technically, we don't pay other companies to come in and provide mutual aid. We don't pay them to come in, just like we don't get paid to go to mutual aid in other communities too, but it affects your third party bill.
Right, so what happens is, for instance, in 2021, I broke this down the last time. We brought in 320 times, we brought in rescues from out of town. Okay, of that 320 times, 266 of those times, those mutual aid rescues transport. Because not all the time do they transport. So if they transport, that's when the third party billing comes into play. So 266 times. The average recovery is about $350 per transport. So the mutual aid coming in last year, we lost $93,100. But we provided mutual aid in terms of EMS to other communities 185 times. And we transported 124 of those at the same transport average. So we recovered another 43,400. So we had a net loss of third-party billing to the town of 49,700.
So could we be in a position theoretically, if we increase our personnel, to have a lot less aid going out than coming in?
We could, yes. But
Which could essentially,
bring in more third-party,
correct,
yes.
which could potentially reduce or offset a percentage of the new personnel.
I don't think so,
No.
because contractually, and we can take a look at that, I don't believe that third party only take for salaries. With the contract that we have with the town.
Goes for supplies and goes for
Apparatus.
apparatus and whatnot.
Yes.
I would not put this issue into a funding issue. It is not that. This is completely 100%, I'm not trying to make it sound like this is a safety issue. Don't turn it into a funding issue that, we can add people and we're gonna make more money to it. I don't, because I've had the discussion with this chief, I've had a discussion with the other chief. I don't like this third party building. I understand it. I completely see why it's there, and I understand how we use it, and we don't abuse it or anything. But the reality is, as a town, we pay 100% for the contracted service. And then they're able to go to our insurance company and charge them for that transport, even though we've already, as taxpayers, paid this for that service. And they say, well, everyone does it, and I understand that, you don't get me wrong. But why do you think it costs $23,000 for family plan on health care? That's a lot. So we're paying for it one way or the other. And like I say, I understand how it works and how we use it, and I'm kind of okay with that, but don't lose sight of the fact that these people are not here to generate more revenue.
Sure.
That's not what this is about.
And I understand your point, but my counterpoint to that would be, excuse me, that money comes in handy when we're buying $500,000 fire trucks.
I
It's
understand.
really no cost to the town.
I understand.
But
I understand.
Chief, something just going on me. If we put another rescue on the road, when it started, remember this whole thing a while ago, I had mentioned that somebody called me and said they waited 15 minutes for a rescue. Sure. If we get another rescue on the road, is it gonna help people of North Smithfield, or is it gonna make us more available to issue for more mutual aid?
Well, I mean, that's a tough question to answer me, but I can give you some of the data in that what we're seeing in terms of mutual aid coming into town happens when we're responding to or at the first call. So we're going to XYZ address. All right, and then now the person at C, D, and F address calls and they have a medical as well. That's when we're having to call in mutual aid. So if we had that other crew, Councilman Badney said we have those 5 people responding to the first call. I still got 2 people left to go to that second call. Now, we start getting into the third call, and which occasionally happens. It's not as frequently as the second call, but we do have them 3, sometimes 4 at a time, or while we're all tied up. So, I mean, obviously, you know, mutual aid is kind of a funny thing. You can't deny it because you need it, you know, so.
Everybody operates with it because nobody can have 100% of.
That's right, they're never gonna have a
The sad reality is, we have 4 ambulances and someone could still wait 10 or 15 minutes because the other guys are busy. It's the reality of the business, you know, unfortunately.
The hope and the goal is to do exactly what Councilman Corriveau said, is to bring these people on, and we'll be able to cover more calls. The reality is, we may generate some more revenue. That's not the reason, but we very well may. Over.
Anybody else? So what I'm looking to do is then to just send this to the budget committee for consideration, and maybe, and then the budget committee come up with, we gotta do something, we're gonna move, whether it's gonna be 2 or 4, I think we should let the budget committee do that. And my list as to, how we proceed. We need more for that, because I'm just,
I don't believe you do it.
No.
Council pretty united.
Right. 100% behind the Jews.
Thank you very much.
Chief, they're gonna have that in your budget, right? The, having the new members, that'll be in your budget, right?
Yeah. Yes. We'll figure out the number and then we can go through that.
Well, right now, his budget number is his contract number. That's what we budgeted, is basically his contract number. But his contract is gonna expire in June.
Right,
So they'll be negotiating new contracts, so I would think that under negotiating, you would negotiate for additional
I'll
personnel.
be coming in probably with one proposal.
Yeah, so your new budget that you come into this season, like that, into the budget committee, is gonna include this new, however many people you're putting in.
I'm not sure that we go to budget committee with the contract.
No.
The negotiation goes between the town administrator and the fire department, and then it goes to the budget committee. That's the thing, this is a unique situation because they're under contract. So it has to be negotiated with the town administrator first.
But we can have the budget committee look at this,
Absolutely.
we can have the budget, and that's what we want to do right now, yeah, whether we add the 2 people or not, that will come down to a contract and the cost and all that, and whether it's 2 or 4 people, and we'll certainly be weighing in on that as well. But we can definitely have the budget committee start looking and saying, okay, if we add 2 people or 4 people, what's the impact on the budget? We can have them do that.
Well, Chief Chartier already came up with those numbers. He already gave those to me, so I'm just gonna present them to the budget committee and
It's just a
basically,
coincidence that with the timing on this, that we're at a contract time, so it kind of works out.
right, but what I'm concerned about is that, yeah, the budget committee can say, yes or no, whatever, but the town administrator can not put that in the contract or approve a different percentage. So it's almost like we almost have to do the contract before we,
That's the other thing, we could
Yeah.
do a contract. Say we just do a simple roll on what's it.
and then we can amend it.
And then
with the-
later on, we can go back. and open
Yeah,
it
that's-
up,
that's
put
a better-
Put an amendment in or memorandum of agreement that we're gonna add people.
That's a better process right there. I agree with that to negotiate the normal contract
and then go to the budget committee, do what we have to do, and then come back and do an amendment if they agree that the budget can sustain 2, 4, 6, 8 more people.
Okay.
And then we can do an amendment to the contract. And it could be amended when the new people start, which would be January, so save us half a year. I don't know, it's just suggestion.
Well, the new people will potentially start sometime.
If you go.
Once they're in the academy, they're on our books.
Right. And no matter how many, 4 or 2 or 1, it's, you know, whenever they start the academy.
Okay.
What I would ask is that, as long as the budget committee is looking at this, if they can look at it long term, I think that the ultimate goal needs to be to get to the 24-hour staff. I would hate to see them say, well, you know, we do 2, and then we won't see any more for another 3 or 4 years, or we do the 4, and then we won't see the other 4 for another 3 or 4 years. I think
The goal has to
the
be.
scope should be,
Yeah,
get that truck 24 hours a day, 7 days.
Right. They gotta review the proposal, not just how it fits into one budget year, but long term.
Yeah, good. Okay. Thanks, Judy. Good.
Thank you.
Speaking of the budget committee, discussion with council vote of action on appointment to the budget committee, completion of a 3-year term ending 11/30/22 is the town council appointment, and you'll see your packets, we do have one letter. Is that?
Please make a motion to appoint Terry Ronoli to a 3-year term to the budget committee ending on 11/30/2022.
Second.
Motion, we have a second, and we do have a second. Mr. Aaron, second. A roll call, please, Joanne.
Yes.
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 Yes. The council vote of action on appointment of part-time electrical inspector, completion of a 4-year term ending 12/1/2024. This is an appointment by the town administrator.
Mr. President, I'm fortunate enough to have 3 applicants apply, 2 showed up for the interview. Both those applicants were very capable of the position. One was a stronger candidate, that's Williamsburg, that's my point. But it's not clear, either of those applicants could have done the position. So I'll field any questions you may have.
You happy with the person that you selected?
It's that.
Anybody have any questions for the administrator? We could give you council approval for this. Would you like to introduce him?
I would. Would you mind?
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much.
He's a modest man, but I have a resume, I have a CV on him, the amount of industrial electrical work he's done, worked in hospitals, setting up operating rooms, residential, he's very, very good.
I have no doubts. Thank you. I think that's everything, right? We covered everything.
Executive session.
Yeah, executive session. Suppose we go to executive session at this time.
Make a motion that we recess into executive session. 42-46-5A2 sessions pertaining to collective bargaining and litigation, work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining and litigation. Number 1, Bel Air Realty LLC, Anthony J. Del versus Town of Smithfield zoning board of review. Ahmed Najarian in his capacity as chairman of the North Town of Smithfield zoning board of review. Scott Martin in his capacity as vice chairman of the Town of Smithfield zoning board of review. Paul Pasquarello in his capacity as member of the Town of Smithfield zoning board of review. Michael Malfitano, in his capacity as member of the town of Smithfield zoning board of review, Gail Denomey, in her capacity as member of the town of Smithfield zoning board of review, Cynthia DeJesus, in her capacity as town treasurer for the town of North Smithfield, and the town of North Smithfield as a municipal entity, case number TC 2022-00446.
Thank you. That was a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Joanne.
Gonzalez? Okay. Yes. Mr. Corriveau?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Vadeney?
Yes.
Mr. Durkin?
Yes. We just, while he's doing that, we request